Disclaimer: this is for educational use only. Our instructor Roldan T. Ardines is allowing our group to use this as an educational material only. Contemporary global governance with integration of COVID-19. At the end of the reporting, you will learning objectives. You will learn about global governance with integration of COVID-19 pandemic. Explains the effects of globalization on governments. It will identify the institutions that govern international relations, and it will also differentiate internationalism from globalism. It will identify the rules and the functions of United Nations. It will identify the challenges of global governance in the 21st century. It will explain the relevance of the state amid globalization. So what is global governance? So global governance refers to institution that coordinates the behavior of transnational actors, facilitate cooperation, resolve dispute, and alleviate collective action problem. So global governance broadly entails making, monitoring, and parsing rule. So the main purpose of global governance is to provide global public goods, peace, security, justice, and mediation system for conflict, functioning market, and unified standards for trade and industry. So in our own words, global governance is a campaign towards unification of multinational actors. So when we say unification, it is related to united, bringing or combining things or people. It is a unification of multinational actors that seek on negotiating answers to problems that have an effect, or it is more than one state or region. Global governance with integration of COVID-19. So global governance during pandemic reflects that the risks of health security threat intertwined together. The role of governance in COVID-19 was to ensure successful response to COVID-19, providing upstream of work on institutional reforms that can support increased force fragility extreme, involving large-scale service delivery needs. So the government deals with the pandemic by having a strict border control, lockdown, quarantine facilities, and monitoring efforts with the help of LGUs, further harm that has brought by the pandemic.
Effects of globalization on government. Globalization affects government in spending in its simplest version. It stipulates that globalization reduces public expenditures because international competition effective triggers a race for the best location across nations. So when you say about reduces public expenditures, it means that spending na siya sa government sa needs and wants niya. For example is provisions, infrastructures, or pensions. So I have here two effects, which is negative and positive effect of globalization on government. The negative effect. Globalization has led to a decline in the power of national government to direct and influence their economies, especially with regard to macroeconomic management and to determine their political structures. When you talk about macroeconomic management, bahay na siya sa mga training na siya kanang nag-cover sa financial programming and policies, mga public finance, mga exchange operations and monetary and macroeconomic statistics. So next is the positive effect. Countries journeying together through globalization will remove the cultural barriers and to make the world a global village. Globalization makes the countries adopt the factors that are beneficial in the long run. There is also a possibility of less war between developed countries due to globalization. So, naimo siya positive effect kay pwede naman kakaning ma-remove naman natin ng barriers kana maka-connect na mo sa lain nga nations, sa mga lain countries para ang may mo o global village bitaw ka. Dili na siya di wala na kayo wars mahitabo kay nagkasinabot and ma-adapt sa mga factors sa sa ubang countries.
be discussing institutions that govern international relations. First is formed in 1949 with the signing of the Washington Treaty. NATO is a security alliance of 30 countries from North America and Europe. NATO's fundamental goal is to safeguard the allies' freedom and security by political and military means. So, in EU, on the other hand, is the European Union. Is a unique partnership between 27 European countries known as member states or EU countries. Together, they cover much of the European continent, and the EU is home to around 447 million people, which is around 6% of the world's population. Citizens of the EU countries are also EU citizens. So G20, the G20 formed in 1999 is a group of 20 of the world's largest economies that meets regularly to coordinate global policy on trade, health, climate, and other issues. On WTO, WTO operates a global system of trade rules and helps developing countries build their trade capacity. It also provides a forum for its members to negotiate trade agreements and to resolve the trade problems they face with each other. And the other end, the ICC is a permanent international court establishment to investigate, prosecute, and try individuals accused of committing the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole. The crime of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. And the best example for it is the Ukraine and Russia unsettlements. And UN, lastly, is to maintaining the international peace and security. The United Nations protects human rights, delivers humanitarian aid, promotes sustainable development, and upholds international law.
So, internationalism lays stress only on solidarity and cooperation among the nation, while acknowledging their sovereign character. Globalism not only emphasizes the delusion of sovereign expression of nation, but demonstrates the conflict arising out of delusion as well. But the similarities of these two is their goal is to become the borderless in the politics and trade. Internationalism means having a favorable relationship with other nations and the people within. This is done through processes that involve an exchange of cultures. It is more concerned with the collaboration that occurs between territories and its direction. Internationalism has to do more with politics than anything else. A good example of this was United Nations. Globalism is the cooperation between individuals and businesses for financial gain. Government involvement is rarely seen, but it does facilitate and enforce regulation. Today, technology has made this possible. Everything is sold on the internet today.
Roles and functions of United Nations. The main role of the United Nations is to maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relations among nations, to promote respect for human rights, and to coordinate aid in disaster situations, and to provide help on global issues such as drug trafficking and environment. The UN's main mandate is to preserve global security, which it does particularly through the Security Council. In addition, the UN can settle international legal issues through the International Court of Justice and implements its key decisions through the Secretariat led by the Secretary General.
What is global governance in 21st century? So, it provides global public goods, peace, security, justice, and mediation system for conflict functioning, market, and unified standards for trade and industry. The challenges we have in 21st century are terrorism, armed conflicts, organized crime, threats, and conflict resolution. Terrorism, in its broadest sense, the use of intentional violence and fear to achieve political or ideological aims. Armed conflicts arises whenever there is fighting between states or protracted armed violence between government authorities and organized armed groups, or just between organized armed groups. Organized crime, a category of transnational, national, or local groupings or highly centralized enterprises run by criminals to engage in illegal activity, most commonly for profit. Cyber threats: any circumstance or event with the potential to adversely impact organized operations, including mission, functions, image, or reputation, organized assets, or individuals through an information system via unauthorized access, destruction, disclosure, modification of information, and/or denial service. Conflict resolution is a way for two or more parties to find a peaceful solution to a disagreement among them. The disagreement may be personal, financial, political, or emotional. When a dispute arises, often the best course of action is negotiation to resolve the disagreement. State amid globalization. Globalization also creates a sense of interdependence among nations, which could create an imbalance of power among nations of different economic strengths. The role of nation-state in a global world is largely regulating one as the chief facts in global interdependence.